And there we go. Okay, so this is the first informational session of this exchange year for District 6690. My name is Drake Lundstrom. I am the outbound chair for 66690, which means that I am in charge of um, helping the long-term students do their documentation, training students for while they're abroad, coaching them while they're abroad, and that kind of stuff. And this is going to just go through the basics of the short and long-term Rotary Youth Exchange programs offered in our district, which is pretty much all of central Ohio and some of southeastern Ohio. So, basics of Rotary Youth Exchange, that is what the acronym stands for. What is it? Who can go? How much? What's the plan? How to prepare? And then why should you go? So, Rotary Youth Exchange is part of Rotary International. Rotary International is the world's second largest service organization that's present in, I believe, essentially every country in the world. It's best known for its work to end polio and also provide clean water, provide education literacy around the world, but also promoting world peace has been one of the big missions since the beginning. And the kind of thought behind it is if you know somebody from another country, you're less likely to want to bomb them, want to have these negative interactions. Um, Pardon me. So the goal of the scholarship is to have an ambassador go abroad and represent America over in Brazil, in Japan, wherever, and then come back and represent the culture of Japan, of Korea, wherever else back in the US to better promote world understanding. And sorry if I sound a little weird. My voice has been messed up recently. So there's two programs. The long-term program is an entire academic year. You are gone essentially from um, August through May. It can vary, sometimes July, sometimes September, and sometimes you come back in April, sometimes in June. And you usually stay with 3 to 4 families. It varies, though. That is not guaranteed. That is a normal number. You are a high school student while you are abroad. You're required to go to high school. And while it is not a full ride scholarship, it is a very large scholarship, and the total items in it are valued at $24,000. I know some districts say 30,000. It just depends on how you do the math. The short-term program is a family-to-family program where Rotary pairs you and facilitates training, but is a bit less involved in the actual exchange part. Instead, we find a family so that stay with a boy or girl around your age, around your interest in the country you're interested in, and you go abroad and stay in their house for a month, and they come back and stay with you for a month. So that's the basics of the two different programs. And that one is usually over the summer. Although if you're going to maybe Argentina, you might go for 2 months over our summer, and they come back for 2 months in our winter, which is their summer. It can vary a little bit, and that one's also a lot more flexible around your family's plans or sports or things because you can actually choose what days you want to go. With a long-term program, it is more the days the country allows you to go, or the days that you go. You have a bit less flexibility. So, terminology, you are prospective outbound. That means you may go out to another country. Future outbound is when you are accepted into the program. Outbound is while you're on exchange. Inbound is students here from other countries that didn't have on the list, but if you stick around, you'll get to meet a lot of students from other countries staying in the US. A rebound is a student who has finished their exchange, and a Rotex is somebody who has finished their exchange and continues to volunteer at the program. So I was originally a Rotex until I graduated to Rotary Youth Exchange Chair. So that is one of the people running the committee, running the program in the area. So I'm the long-term chair. Bethany on the call is the overall chair of the whole district. We also have one to manage inbounds, one to manage volunteers, a lot of different things going on. The country contact will be a person that the long terms interact a lot with, who is the expert on that particular country. So when you're going abroad, they already know people living in that country who you'll be meeting with there. They know the culture better. They know the visa process and other things better. So they're able to support them because we exchange with, I believe, around 25 countries, and I can't memorize 25 countries worth of things. So we have like one country contact per 5 countries or so at the multi-district level because we partner with not just our district, but a bunch of other districts to provide a better experience. Who can go? You must be a high school student, or you must not be in college. You could do a gap year. We had that done before, it's not a problem. You must be 15 to 18 and a half years old on September 1st of your exchange year. So I did the math. That is when your birthday must be between for the following year. So Madison, are you within the window? I know that's a little rough.
Yeah, I should be in the window.
Perfect.
Sure. I turn 17 or this year, and then I turn 18 next September.
Perfect. Okay, great. I know the gap year is hard sometimes because like you can half of seniors are too old and it kind of sucks to tell somebody that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and then you must complete the application and turn a host family form for the deadline. Host family forms are long-term only, but the application is for everybody. And then you must attend the interviews and then attend all of the mandatory training weekends afterwards. We don't think that taking a student and just sending them with no prep is a good idea. So we actually sit down and have various training weekends. We call it a weekend, or we call it a weekend, but it's sometimes one day, sometimes overnight from like a Saturday to Sunday. Events from February through May for long terms, January through May, and one in July. There's also a couple of optional things I'll talk about a little later. And also, if you have any questions, just stop me at any time. Go for it. So, selection process. Everybody cares about this. How do you actually get selected to the program? So, the first thing I'll say is um, we have more spots than students. This has been the case since COVID, unfortunately. So, do not feel that you're competing against the other students. In fact, the program would work better if there were more students. So, if you have any friends that are interested, just drag them along, let them know about it. It makes things work better the more students there are, and also you get to carpool to events, which is nice. The way the applications work, and the application will be opened in, I think, the middle of this month. They're not yet, but they will be shortly, which is why we started info sessions. You are able to resubmit the application multiple times. So a lot of the application, the more written application, is for the State Department and for the country you're going to. It is not as much for us. So we will actually help you edit and improve it to work better for going abroad. We mainly evaluate based off of the interviews that are in December if you're doing a long term or early apply for short term or later for other short term students. And the big things that we're doing are saying, one, are you on board? Sometimes parents are pushing students, sometimes students are pushing and parents are not really okay with it, or sometimes somebody's just like not mature. We are sending you abroad to be an ambassador of the US and of Rotary. So as long as you're going to be a good ambassador, we have a spot for you. And then we continue to evaluate during the training weekends. Generally, nothing happens with this, but if you have a spot, but you do something really stupid, like I don't know, you start breaking things at the weekend or drinking or something that you shouldn't be doing or staying up way past curfew and yelling at us, you can be removed from the program. That is very rare, but just letting you know that it can happen. Also, with that said, we have a couple of optional training weekends before the interviews. If you attend those, it makes it a lot easier for us to understand what you are as a student. So, like, if you're doing a great job in those weekends, and you come to the interview and something goes wrong, we've even like redone interviews in the past because somebody was like sick the day of, because we'd already met them and trusted them to be a good ambassador for Rotary. Cost, this is the one parents care about. So there are the numbers, plain and simple. Long term is approximately $6,000 to $9,000. Short term is approximately $2,500 to $4,000. Although, if cost is the factor stopping you from going, Rotary clubs have offered more scholarship on top of the default before. So don't just think that it's impossible. Reach out to us and see if there are other accommodations possible. So the short terms program, part of it is the fee. Same with the long term. Most of the cost is the airline ticket. For short terms, that's pretty much the entire cost, plus some insurance. Usually there's not visa fees for short term, and it's fairly simple for short term. For long term students, there's larger fees, more stuff going on. Most of the cost is airline tickets because those airline tickets now are through a special agency, which also handles the visa process. and that makes them more expensive. It's also a ticket that allows for early returns if necessary. More insurance, you're gone longer. There will be probably some visa fees. Um, and then actually, the Rotary Club, while you're abroad, will be giving you money as a spending money stipend while you're abroad. So I'm spending a lot of time on this because people really care. Um, yeah, short term, here's approximately the numbers again. Yeah, you might need a couple of vaccinations. Oh, and you'll have to pay for language learning. So that is a little part of the miscellaneous part. Unfortunately, the costs keep going up as airline tickets go up. And then long term, um, yes, this is about the right number. It varies, especially depending on airfare. If you're going to Mexico, it will be cheaper than if you're going to Japan. And obviously, insurance more expensive, and then stuff like language studies, visiting embassies or visas, so on and so forth. And people are like, oh, wait, but you said it's a scholarship. What does that mean? Well, it is a scholarship, but not a full ride scholarship. So to give an example, AF is it AFP or AFS? It's their exchange program, Bethany. I think it's AFS. Let me say that's right. So there's another exchange program that is also non for profit, but it's not a scholarship. And for them, the 1 month program to Japan is about $10,000, and the 1 year program is about 30,000. And kind of that's the difference where while you're abroad, like we're covering your food, your housing, usually go to a private school and that's covered by Rotary. If you are a long-term student getting a monthly spending stipend, then there's also all of the training and things done. Like we are all volunteers volunteering our time to do trainings, to do preparations, to do coaching, to do the paperwork and all that stuff. So all of that stuff is what is covered by the scholarship. But similar to like a regular college scholarship, like you could have a college scholarship, but you still have to pay to get yourself there. You have to pay for like housing, you have to pay for parts of it. Any questions about the money stuff? Okay, then we'll keep on going, but feel free to ask later. Um, School credit, this is mainly relevant for long-term students. This is a little complicated. It varies by school, um, and it will be whatever the guidance counselor and principal of that school say. You will also want to get what they say in writing in an email because sometimes they change their mind or they forget what they said. But generally, schools are able to provide some credit. Maybe they'll give you a couple semesters worth of foreign language, or they'll count the math as a pass fail or things like that, but it is not always the case. I've seen anywhere from no credit given to a full year's worth of credits given. So this will be a conversation to have with your guidance counselor relatively early if you're thinking of the long-term program. But it's definitely achievable. Most people end up going instead of a year of school and they graduate just fine. Here is the plan. So right now we are in April. So applications are opening around now. And then coming into August is where we're really going to start going. And actually, I probably should move the preparing steps a little bit earlier. Do that real fast. Let me say that those are all. Oh, this is why I do my things in advance because I'm bad at PowerPoint. And of course I can't. There we go. So we are in April right now, kicking it off. Coming into September, there are going to be optional weekends where you get to meet the inbound students. So those are students visiting from other countries, and stay overnight and see what the program is like. So there'll be September is an overnight, October is just during the day, and November is more of a just helping you with application session. So that is, but you can work your application before then. The earlier the better. We'll let you know as soon as they are available for you to start submitting documents. Then applications are due in November for long term, or if you're doing early apply for short term, I would recommend early apply because then we get accepted in the program and just get it over with. Um, Interviews are first weekend of December, and then starting in January, long-term students start training. There are more interviews for short-term students because their acceptance is later, and then we start the remaining mandatory training for everyone. So everybody has to attend an overnight in February, during the day in March, and this includes parents too. A couple of trainings include parents. April is again mandatory. May is again mandatory. And then about May, June is when the short-term students head abroad. So you'll head abroad for a month, month and a half, and then your student, your host sibling, will come back with you for a month, month and a half. In July, there's the final training for long-term students, and then they head abroad at some point around August, give or take a month. They stay abroad, change host families once, twice, and then they return in May, give or take a month. And then finally, long-term students are required to attend a rebound weekend afterwards, which is kind of helping you deal with um, reverse culture shock, your growth as a person, adjusting back to kind of where you are now. We found it to actually be very difficult, so we require this to finish the program, put a capstone on it and get your diploma and all that. And then it is an entirely volunteer run program. Many of our past students will then continue volunteering with it. We would love to have you. It is not a requirement. Also, if you are on the younger side, you can do a short term followed by a long term the next year. That is not uncommon. Any questions on the big schedule? I will say that I don't believe it is up yet, but on our website, which is 6690exchange.com, the Study Abroad Scholarship website you saw is for all North America. This is our individual site. Um, that has the calendar on it with all events. But I believe we only have events through August right now because we're still pretty early in the year. But I believe by mid-May, we should have the events through next July. So, yeah. Okay, then I will keep on trucking. Oh, wow, I feel dumb. Yes, the next slide said check the sites. Check the site because that is where we'll post times, locations, dates, all of that, and also check in right beforehand. Once in a while, we have to move because of scheduling conflicts. We try very hard not to move anything, but you should check in advance just in case. Training. So why are we doing trainings for recovery? Essentially, we're going to cover how to function well around adults. Basic personal skills is most of it. So things like body language, small talk, resolving conflicts, but then also you're going to be doing youth exchange specific stuff. You're going to be presenting to Rotary clubs in the US and abroad. So we're going to cover presenting. You're going to be in new countries. We're going to cover culture shock and language learning and cultural training. We're also going to cover things that are Rotary specific, like our rules and expectations, as well as our do's and don'ts, with four D's being things you don't do, and six being things that you do. Those you'll hear a lot about later, so I'm not going to go into them. We also have a set of research papers that you're required to do. They are pretty small. They're like a half page to a page. Just to say that you know what's going on, like that you know enough about Ohio to talk about it. If somebody says, "Hey, I've never heard of this before. Tell me about Ohio. What makes your state special?" or things like that. Language preparation. Um, Language, you can go on this program if you have no language whatsoever. That is okay, but having some is helpful. So what we do is we actually have an internal training program that we require you to do. Long-term students are required to do 1 hour a week for 20 weeks. Short terms, it is 1 hour a week for 10 weeks. Um, it's not that intensive. There is some flexibility. If there are conflicts with it, like if somebody's in a varsity sport and they don't have a lot of time, we work around that. Um, and we provide a gift card to help you get started on it, but covering this is part of the overall cost. We use Itaki, which is an online tutoring system. That is significantly cheaper than traditional tutors. So that is where, 20 weeks of, or I guess 10 lessons of $15 an hour, $150, although the first part's covered by a gift card. And similar for the long-term students, $15 an hour or 20, that's $300. That's part of the $1,000 miscellaneous funds. I'm sorry, now my voice sounds bad. Okay, blackout period. So another thing that will happen while you're abroad is actually that to help you connect locally, we're going to have you not be calling home, not be texting home during the first month of the exchange. So one-way communication is allowed, but kind of going back and forth with your parents, calling, Skyping, all that, or I guess Facebook Messenger, whatever else, is not allowed. Just saying this early because sometimes it scares parents. We'll cover this in more detail later. The big reason being we want you to be grounded where you are. We want you to be really present in that country. And if you're spending all your time calling your friends at home, you can't really be fully present in Japan, in France, wherever else. And then also we found that actually calling home ironically makes you much more homesick and makes it much harder to do your exchange. Okay, now what? Student to-do list. So big things for you to do is actually start the application um, and get on it. Passports, that one has to be done a little bit early because it takes forever to apply for a passport. But your passport needs to be good through the year that you come back. So if you're doing a long-term program, your passport cannot expire before, let's see, would be the middle of 2027. So pretty far out, your passport needs to be good. Short term, it need to be through end of 2026. But that's important. And then just starting the application when it is open, which it will be within a couple weeks. And just go through it, ask questions if you have them, and submit it early because you can revise it. And submitting it, each time you submit it, you'll get access to more documents. So you want to submit it early and then keep working on revising it. We'll go into more detail when you're actually working the application. We will reach out to you and give you advice for how to work on it. We've been told it's very good prep for college applications. This is just showing you a little bit what it looks like, that there will be extra forms later on. Finding host families, long-term students are required to have 3 families signed up to be potential host families. They are not a hard commitment. They're not signing it in blood. It's not a legal contract, but it is a form that will give you that essentially says, hey, we are interested in being host families. And the reason we do this is because you're in the high school, Rotary isn't. We don't actually know all the families in the community, so you helping us find host families allows this program to function at the cost of this, since no host family is ever paid to host or anything like that. Um, and then why go? So it is really a unique and amazing experience. It's you're not just visiting a country, but you're actually living there and being really deeply part of a culture. So, like when I was in Brazil, everybody knows about Brazilian Carnival, the big festival for like a week. But I actually got to be in the parade with people. Or this one in the bottom middle was we did a volunteer event of putting together presents for 350 children and in the slums of Brazil, which is much poorer than American poverty. So like we were giving a bunch of 7-year-olds the first Christmas presents they'd ever had. And it's really an amazing experience to see the world, to let you grow. And this kind of gives you the freedom that you don't have in America. Because the hard part of the American school system is that if you mess up for a single semester in high school, it hurts your GPA, which hurts the college you get into, which hurts the job that you get, and like sets your whole future back. Or even the same thing in college. There's very few opportunities for you to try things and mess up. You kind of have to succeed all the time, or you won't follow that perfect track. This is something where you can go abroad and try different things, mess up, and it won't come back to haunt you because you're leaving it all abroad. You're away from your family, you're on your own, you're independent, and it won't follow you back. They don't even speak the language. And and all that, of course, does also look good in this college application and all that. But really, I think the personal growth part of it is way more impactful. And unfortunately, don't have any other Rotex on the call. Normally, they could chime in and talk a bit more about it. But it really is an amazing program and completely different from like going on exchange in college when you're just hanging out with other Americans. Yeah, no, it's or like the and it's also the when you do this travel, it opens up so many more opportunities. So we had a past student that went on exchange to France, and when she came back and went to OSU, she tested out of their undergraduate French and straight into graduate level French. In her first internship, she worked at the French embassy in Washington, D.C., and helped the French ambassador translate his speech to Congress. Or also, like for me, it opened up opportunities where got to work abroad in Japan for almost a year. And that photo in the bottom right is the sunrise over Mount Fuji. that I got to see and take a photo of because of the opportunities opened up for me in my life in Rotary Youth Exchange. So, I mean, we're all here as volunteers because we think it's an amazing program. Um, and then just thank you so much for being here. Uh, Parents, it's a lot for us to ask you to trust us with your kids. Students, thank you for willing to step up. You're going to be the number used to be one out of 40,000 American students went on exchange, and now it's even lower. And this program wouldn't exist without people actually being brave enough to step up and be ambassadors for the country. So we really appreciate you coming and listening to us. So here is my contact information. We will be sending out this recording, um, or just reach out. However, there's a lot of ways to reach us. So I will turn off the recording and we can have some questions.